And look, don't get me wrong, I love pink or flowers or every possible expression of the feminine, right? But it gets into a point where it's like, is this what women actually want, or is this the expression of femininity that men or publishers think that we want? And also at the same time, it gets to a point as well where I'm literally judging a book by its cover because the cover is ugly. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Style Reads, and today I want to talk about the obsessive girlification of book covers on everywhere we go. Like, I think that publishers are obsessed with this look in covers, and obviously, I think it's getting a little bit too far. But I have the feeling that there are quite a lot of factors that affect into this. So yeah, let's start because this is a very, very juicy topic and potentially unpopular. So let's go. Starting off with the context, for the past 5-ish years, more or less, I have seen a huge increase and literally later explosion of what I call the girly pop type of covers, which, if you don't know or you have no context about, basically, I feel like every time I go to a bookshop or I go to a library, the only thing I see is three types of covers, which is the usual classic single colored big cover with a drawing of a couple and then some funky letters, well, the title in a funky font style, for example. Then we have the flower type of covers where the only thing that you can see is literally flowers and then the title. And then lastly, the last type is the one where it's like black cover, for example, or like black font, and then you see either flowers or you see thorns, and then you see something related to or slightly related to the book or to the title, and obviously some skulls, weird things. Like, these are literally the only three covers that I have seen for the past 2-3 years every time I go into a library and every time I want to, or like I specifically go for romance or for fiction. And honestly, I am tired of it because it's just boring. Look, first of all, I don't want to yuck on someone's yum. So if you like the covers or if you like this kind of style, fair enough. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean that you shouldn't. But also at the same time, I think this is bigger than we think, or this is not just a silly little trend as we always say, right? Because, like, honestly, we have seen a huge oversaturation with these covers. Like, this is the only thing that we see, or like the vast majority of the things that we see, right? At least in romance. And like, obviously, everyone has different editions, or many books, or especially classics, they usually have different covers and different editions, right? But when I saw this, and like I saw what is the reasoning behind Penguin Classics actually making these covers and actually bringing like classic romance stories to the YA fandom or YA public, it just makes me think, have you gone mental? Like, Penguin, I adore you. You know I love you. I actually have so many books from you as a publishing house. But it's just like, this, at what moment did you think that this was a good idea? You might be thinking, maybe this is not as important as I think, which probably it isn't, because in this society and in this economy, we have bigger fish to fry. Or you could also be thinking that I am being a conspiracist, or that maybe this is not as trendy as I think it is. Maybe maybe you're right, maybe you're not. But basically, I've been looking at the top book covers for like each year, for example, or for like the past, I think I said the past 20 years, the past 2 decades, okay? And I've been basically looking and counting on seeing what are how did the covers look like during those years, right? And for example, if we go into 2009, for example, or 2010, we see that the covers for romance stories or for stories that are related or directed to YA, right, we see that there are many unique covers and covers that are very different from each other and that are related to the story, right? So for example, we see covers like these, or we see that very specifically they are targeted to whoever the story could be for, or whoever could relate to the story. Even in 2014, 2015, for example, we still see huge differences between different romance stories, right? We see, for example, Akota, or we see all the stories over here, like different covers that are still different. But, and there's always a but, I think from 2020 onwards, or like during those years, like 2019 to 2021, we see a huge difference between the like kind of covers that the top romance books have to now. And I feel like even, for example, 2022, 2023, and 2024, the vast majority of the covers, at least for the top romance books, they all look the same. And look, I have to admit that this has always happened, right? We see in 1980s, for example, we see that the vast majority of romance books usually had a very specific vibe, right? Or at least we know the classic paintings of like the 1980s romance book covers. Or we see, for example, in like in the 2000s, we also see the same style. But I think it gets to a point where it's like you're literally like, these still had some sort of difference between each other, right? But now it's like, if you told me, like, if you literally took the book cover or like two different book covers and you absolutely changed, like if you changed the title and you changed the authors and literally just portrayed it to me, I would say like, yeah, these tracks, because they look exactly the same. Like they don't represent the personality of the books or the personality of the author. It's just literally copy and paste. I feel like someone like a book editor or a book designer or whoever, they literally like created, I don't know, 500 types of covers or 500 different copies, and then they are just giving it to different authors because they have too many covers to track. And obviously this wouldn't be my video or my kind of videos if I didn't have an analysis. So I basically was like, first of all, I wrecked my brain into thinking, why would this be happening, or why is this happening, right? And I had some theories, or I had some possibilities that could affect this trend, but I think there is one in specific that literally like covers everything else, right? Or it's like there's one main factor that literally affects everyone in the publishing industry, and it's COVID-19. Hear me out. I know that I sound like a conspiracist again, but if you actually think about it and you deepen it, right, there is a lot of research that we have done over the past few years about the effects of COVID-19, for example. First of all, the quarantine, it was a wild time. Everyone knows that everyone was bored as hell. We didn't know exactly what to do, but we're just constantly consuming content for the sake of consuming content and just not feeling the void of boredom, right? Like we saw people getting into new hobbies, for example, people consuming new series, and especially people were reading more, which we see over here in this study, for example, that the publishing industries actually got a lot of extra profits in 2020 and 2021 because of COVID, because people were consuming more books, because actually people were bored. And it gets to a point where it's like, I don't want to watch TV. I am sick of doing all these hobbies. I always wanted to get back into reading, so this is the perfect moment, right? I did it myself, for example. I got into reading again because of COVID. And I think this is a very common trend, or a very common situation, right? Like a lot of people started reading again, or started reading from the start because of boredom. We also see a rise on the type of reading content that people read, right? So not only we see a lot of people consuming more and more like typical or like normal publishing types of books. So for example, let's say either Kindle or physical books, but we also see a lot of people getting into fan fiction. For example, with Wattpad, we see a huge resurgence of Wattpad, even Webtoon, for example. So the Korean app for comics, but also people are more interested in other types of content. So for example, documentaries, films, or like obscure films that people don't really watch, and also anime. So we see a lot of like a huge increase in the amount of consumption and the different types of consumption that people consumed during COVID. And obviously, all types of media, so everyone within the media sector, yeah, they were eating it up, right? Because they saw a huge increment on benefits. So obviously, we see it in the publishing sector, we see it in all the streaming content or like streaming apps like Netflix, HBO, Disney Plus. Everyone was eating it up because they knew that they were getting the profits that they did not expect to get, right? And I think this also put a lot of pressure in the sector as well, in order to keep creating, keep making content in order for people to stay in the platforms, but also at the same time to keep consuming, right? Because obviously it gets to a point where it's like we were literally like we were in within our own very limited spaces, so within our houses or apartments for a year and a half, depending on the country that you live in. But yeah, I remember just like it got to a point where we're like, I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to see because I have seen it all, right? So people were, the media sector had a lot of pressure into creating more and more content, which we also see in social media, right? We see a huge resurgence. Well, not even resurgence. We saw a lot of new content creators that started within that time or that time period as well, not only because they were bored, but also because they actually had the time to invest into their social media content career, right? A lot of influencers started during that time, especially wellness influencers, because obviously they had the time to work out, or they would give tips for people to work out at home, for example, or to create new recipes, for example. And yeah, we see a huge resurgence of the media sector in general, not only traditional media, but also in social media as well. Now, regarding social media more specifically, because I think this is what the juicy part is, I feel like for the past few years, I couldn't tell you exactly when it started, but I have seen how many posts in all social media platforms, they are so extremely curated and so fitting to very specific and usually very trendy aesthetics. Which, first of all, if you don't know her already, please go follow Mina. She is an amazing content creator. I'm a huge fan of her, like long-term fan, and she has a video about aesthetics and vibes and auras, which I think is incredibly informative and really really useful for this video as well, or for this part of the video more specifically. Please go follow her, she's amazing. But yeah, regarding the curatedness, or like how much we need to fit into, or our posts need to fit into aesthetics, I think that yeah, during the past years we have been so obsessed into looking a certain way or acting a certain way and having this whole entire environment around us that perfectly describes the vibe that we want other people to see us like, right? For example, let's say me as a content creator, I would want people, or I would want my followers to believe that I have a dark academia aesthetic, so therefore I will completely change my lifestyle, go to a second hand or like a thrift shop and just get old books or old editions in order to bring this dark old academia aesthetic, basically, right? Like this is to the extent where some people go to. But I think that I think every time I go to Instagram, or I go in on Instagram, I see so many extremely curated posts that is like, there is no way that this is something natural for you, right? We see like people like just doing ads regarding bigs, and it's just like they are literally taking a picture of bigs on their bed, and they have a cowboy boot over there, which, first of all, if you put your shoes on your bed, you are nasty. Please don't do that. This is anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. But yeah, basically, I think that it's just extremely curated, or everything that we see is so curated that everything has to fit into this aesthetic, right? Like, if you, like, for example, let's say I have this big over here right now. So you see me over here, you see like black or navy colors, you see like white over here, or like beige, and you see these colors. But then if I bring these does not match the vibe, right? Or like these technically does not match the vibe. But yeah, I just have like, I shouldn't be putting these big here just because it doesn't really match the aesthetic or like the look that I am trying to portray now, which is something that we see on social media every single day. And I think this is exactly why publishers have these very specific 3 covers, because it just feels the void or the interest of the main trendy aesthetics that we have now at the moment. Like, let's get deep into it. When I see these book covers, I always imagine of like these clean girl slash coquette type of girls, where basically everything looks pink or everything looks white with slight pastel tones, and everything has to be like organized, and they have like tons of skincare, for example. Whereas like this side is the fun type of girl, where it's like, oh, I don't really care that much, I'm a strong independent woman, and but I also want someone to support me, and I want someone to treat me like a princess, but not this type of princess, but this type of princess. But then when I see this last type of cover, it's just like, I just see dark fantasy, right? I see the kind of girls that are not feminine at all, but still want to be treated like a girl, and still have this like dark, reckless side of them. Like, oh yeah, I wear Harley Davidson t-shirts because I love them, and you don't even have a Harley Davidson. But yeah, it's just like, it gets into a point where it's like these 3 types of covers literally preach, or it is expected for them to preach something about your own lifestyle, right? And it's not like, it doesn't even matter if you prefer this kind of covers. That is what I think publishers believe in, right? Because it's like, we have curated our content so much, and we are so obsessed into looking a certain way, or giving a certain vibe or aura, that publishers are literally just gathering these thoughts and just putting the covers that we think they think we want, which is coquette, clean girl, fun type of girl alternative, and then dark fantasy, emo slash whatever. And also, don't even get me started with how lazy these publishing houses have gotten, right? Because I understand, and this doesn't happen in all publishing houses. Well, I don't really know, but I know and I understand that this is not a common thing, or I wish that this is not a common thing. But we also see a huge increase in the usage of AI when it comes to book covers, for example, for editing and even for creating content, right? And obviously, I am of the opinion that sometimes AI can be useful. I use AI sometimes in order to get synonyms, for example, antonyms, or to get the words translated, because obviously I think in Spanish and then I need to translate things in English. So sometimes I just get confused and I need ChatGPT to help me with that, right? But yeah, basically, I think that there are a lot of publishing houses that are using AI more and more and more, which is literally just so hypocritical, because like, not only you're not putting the effort into creating meaningful stories, or like publishing meaningful stories, or good covers, or good big covers, but you literally just created the same thing, like the same 3 covers using AI, and then you just publish it and just send it to the world, because at the end of the day, you don't want quality, you just want quantity for people to consume. Because our society, as of right now, the only thing that we are doing is over consuming. We literally have fast fashionified the literary sector. Like, if you don't think that at the moment we are just creating the same thing over and over again, I want you to look at these type of covers. Okay, let's see some examples of covers that I think are extremely similar and I just think are lazy, straight up. Like, we have these, like, these are the originals and these come afterwards. Do you think that, genuinely, do you think that they are different or that they look different? Because for me, they just look like two books of the same series, or like two editions or two different editions of the same book. Absolutely. So, as a quick conclusion and summary, yes, I think there is a huge trend on these three covers. I hope it finishes soon because I am so tired of my eyes hurting from these covers. But also, these wouldn't happen if we cared less about our aesthetics or about how we look and instead actually enjoyed the content of the stories. Because yes, we always say that, like, we don't judge a book by its cover, but why are you always getting the same covers? Why are you so proud to go onto your social media and just post about how similar or how aesthetically pleasing your bookshelf looks like? And I do it myself, and this is also a call out on myself, right? Why do we do that? Because at the end of the day, we care about aesthetics. So care less about aesthetics, or let's all of us care less about aesthetics, care more about literature, and actually put more effort into not judging a book by its cover, and also actually getting good quality books, because that's all we care about: good quality books, good literature. That's all for today, folks. I hope you like this video, and if you think that there's something that I have missed from this like discussion, please let me know on the comments. You can also follow me on my social media and we can discuss about that. And I would love to know what is the ugliest cover that you have seen, because I have seen a lot of ugly covers, but I don't know what is your favorite ugliest cover. I would love to know, guys. Please put the titles on the comments. I would love to see them, and I would love my eyes for my eyes to hurt after seeing these covers. So yeah, let me know, and thank you for watching again. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you on Monday, guys. Bye.